Good morning, everyone. We are just getting started, letting people into the room. And just as we do, there are a couple of recommendations. Please keep your sound off. Please mute yourself at all times, except when you're speaking. There may be opportunities for that, especially in our breakout rooms later on. And also keep your camera on. We like to see all the participants with us today. That's your option. But we're trying to recreate one of our in-person meetings as much as possible. And usually at our in-person meetings, we can see each other. So we don't have some sort of way to block being seen. So that can work in the meeting too. You can look in gallery mode, and there's some settings you can use to control what you see. You can, at the top of your window, and depending on what type of device you're using, you may see view options. You may see where you can select side-by-side mode and then be able to see both the slides and everyone. And you can even see them in one row, or you can see a whole gallery view of lots of people. So hi, everyone. My name is Mark Benthien. I'm the Executive Director of Earthquake Country Alliance, based at the Southern California Earthquake Center at USC. And I will turn it over to Margaret Vinci, who is the co-chair of Earthquake Country Alliance SoCal.
So good morning to all. It's a great Thursday morning. My name is Margaret Vinci. I am the manager of the Office of Earthquake Programs at Caltech and one of your Southern California regional coordinators for Shake Alert Earthquake Early Warning. I'm also, on behalf of myself and my co-chair, Heidi Rosofsky, we want to welcome you to the last quarterly workshop of 2020. This has been a historic year of change and perseverance, and we are on this road together. So for those who may not be familiar with some of our workshops and what is ECA, I just want to get a brief overview. That ECA is people from all over the state that work together in committees and local alliances, organizations in a common goal to promote and improve earthquake and tsunami preparedness, mitigation, and resilience. So we want to thank Cal OES for being our funding support. And we invite all of you to join us at earthquakecountry.org. So if you have not yet signed up to be an associate of Earthquake Country, please do so that we can make sure that we can update you with all the information that we're creating and the skills and the tools that you can use when you are promoting earthquake and tsunami resilience as well. So part of our state coordinating for Southern California is our committees. And so these are all of our coordinating committee chairs that serve on these different committees. So as of this, since this is the last workshop of the year, I want to thank all of our coordinators who have led and done a wonderful job this year. It's been a challenge, but I want to thank all of our coordinators. They are from different efforts of the Southern California, as you can see on the slide, so they represent different areas. And so we want to also invite you, anybody who's interested in joining one of these committees, we want to invite you in doing so. And you can send your interest to Gabby Noriega at gnoriega@usc.edu. So next slide, Mark. And so now we're going to go to our agenda. We have a full agenda today. And I also want to remind everybody that these workshops are your meetings. We want to hear from you. We want you to participate, which is why we do these breakout sessions. We've gone to having breakout sessions in our agenda because this is an opportunity for us to hear from you. And I will say that that has been some of the success this year with our ShakeOut 2020, not knowing what that's going to look like. And so the feedback that we received from you at our last workshop in August was very beneficial in making this year's ShakeOut successful. And so following your lead and some of your suggestions is what we used, so we had a success for that. But I do want to remind you that this is your meeting. We want to hear from you. So to use the chat box to ask any questions, provide any information, share any information that you might be doing in your organization as well. So moving on to our first speaker on today's agenda is going to be Mark Benthien. Benthien is the Executive Director of Earthquake Country Alliance. And so Mark is going to talk about what ShakeOut 2020 looked like this year. Mark?
Thank you, Margaret. And Thank you all for joining. And again, if you are just joining, my name is Mark Benthien. I'm the Executive Director for Earthquake Country Alliance and also the Global Coordinator for ShakeOut, which means I have the privilege of working with all the other states, territories, multi-state regions, and countries that have joined ShakeOut since we got started. We started it back in 2008. Earthquake Country Alliance SoCal created ShakeOut, where it was just a one-time event. And of course, we didn't expect it to become what it has. And, so of course, what we know it is annual events when schools, organizations, since there's so many different groups, practice earthquake safety. That may be drop, cover, hold on. It may be other aspects of their emergency plans. Last year, we had record-breaking participation. The highest levels of participants in California and many other states and across the country, and worldwide. This year, we weren't sure what to expect because of the pandemic. And so what we ended up with, it seems, is about 60% participation. We weren't sure if we're going to get 25% or 80%. So it's really kind of uncertain. And I think a lot of this has to do with people like you and communities and organizations and households across the country, understanding that it's even more important when things are different to practice what you might do during an earthquake or other disaster, because things aren't always exactly as we anticipate them being. And one point, of course, the website, shakeout.org, also in Spanish, shakeout.org/Espanol, we can still get information there. Now, one of the issues we were looking at, of course, or one of the points we were looking at is that point that earthquakes don't always happen when we expect them or when we plan for them in the way that we plan our drills. And so we really were talking about that it's good to choose alternative times and dates and places and ways that or aspects that you're practicing in your drill this year. And we talked about ShakeOut in place, and really wherever you are, whether you're working at home or still at the workplace or in school or doing distance education, that you could still do an earthquake drill. And so we started to look at how we can support those types of drills. And then also people are still doing drills in person to make sure that they're practicing social distancing and all that. So we did have a webpage, we still do, at shakeout.org/COVID-19. And just 1 second. I'm sorry, Gabby, did you see my message? Are you able to let people into through the waiting room?
Yes, and I have been doing that.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And so we looked at shakeout.org/COVID-19, and in Spanish at the link as shown has a lot of this information about how you can adapt your guides. And speaking of adaptations, I want to make sure everybody understands we do have a closed captioning option. If you turn that on, you might see where it says has a space for that. You'll have to manually turn that on for you to see those captions. It's an automatic caption that Zoom is now doing. So it may not be perfect, but we're testing it out, seeing how it goes. Okay, so the other aspect is we did create some new resources for drill leaders, and you'll see why I'm still talking about this in a moment, because we're going to encourage some action still to happen. But we made some new resources for drill leaders that we're going to look to see how we continue to expand and adapt going into next year. Not that we're hoping, or certainly not hoping, but expecting that everyone will still be in a remote situation by next October. But we are seeing that many people are going to be working from home, maybe on a more regular basis. Many organizations are starting to say that that's just a new way of operating. And so having people at the workplace and working from home and being able to do drills together is something we want to support. So we created these simple slide sets for introducing ShakeOut, explaining what drop, cover, hold on is, and other options for people with disabilities, access and functional needs, ways to encourage discussion before and after, and for leading that 1-minute drill with the drill broadcast recording. So all you have to do is press play, and it gives all the guidelines and tells people when to start and when to stop, when they can come back up. And so we made some initial versions for schools and colleges and for organizations in general. And I encourage everybody to check those out because there is still time to register and hold a drill if you haven't, or maybe a different community that you're a part of to have a drill with. Maybe you did it with work, but maybe you want to think about your neighborhood or your family, your extended family. You can all now do these drills very simply using these presentations, which again, you can get at shakeout.org. Right on the home page, there's a link to the COVID-19 page, and that's where you can find these presentations. You can encourage others to participate still. And when I say still, I mean, it's like you can register your drill for a 2020 shakeout drill through any day through the end of the year. And of course, then there's next year. So always be encouraging people, especially in these new settings that you might be in. Also, look for the 2020 Shakeout survey. It'll be coming next week. We really appreciate your response and your feedback. Should take you no more than 20 minutes. All of you being more active and involved, we really want your detailed feedback as much as you're willing to provide to some of those open-ended questions in that survey. And we are asking some questions about how people adapted their drills for COVID, and maybe even how getting more prepared for COVID, how did that prepare you more for earthquakes and other disasters? And finally, when you do your drill, or when you did your drill and you took pictures, or you will, pictures or video, we want you to share those with us, if you would. Of course, you can post them on social media. And when you do, just take that link, go to shakeout.org/share, where you can submit that link with your information and your approval for your photos and videos for us to use those. And we will, we're looking for really great photos showing the right ways of doing drills and kind of the range of participants. And we're going to be adding them to the new Shakeout website that we're working on. You can also put your photos and documents like in Google Drive or Dropbox, share that link too. Just make sure that you share the link where we can actually access the information, so give us permission there. So those are just some next steps to think about for Shakeout this for right now. Just looking in the chat, looks like Orange County Community Foundation had a great Shakeout activity, remote and on-site, and that's great. Thank you, Zoom Nguyen. If everybody else, feel free to describe what your Shakeout was in the chat, and especially if you did something different or a little unique this year, and or if you learned something new this year, it'd be great if you could share that in the chat. Okay, so next up is another kind of what's next aspect of what you can do, and that is to apply for an ECA SoCal mini award. I'm going to give an update or kind of overview of what mini awards are and how to apply, and then we're going to hear from our recipients of mini awards in 2020 and what they did with their activity. So I know many of you are new to ECA, so you don't know what I'm talking about. What's a mini award? Well, what it is, it's meant to assist our members to improve earthquake resilience by promoting and implementing earthquake mitigation, awareness, and preparedness, and to multiply the impact of your programs. ECA SoCal will have 11 awards this year, from purchases of $500 to $1,000. And what I mean by purchases is that we don't give you money, we buy things for you that you then take and implement. It makes a lot easier than other ways. And so, and also the priority is given to earthquake mitigation activities. Now that could be retrofitting your building. You might not be able to do that for $500 to $1,000. However, you might be able to secure your space, to secure items so they won't fall, either in your own organization or what's really great is if you're helping others do that work, maybe neighbors, maybe a community organization, maybe senior facilities, securing furniture, TVs, other items so they won't fall, cause damage, or cause injury. Now, to make it a bit simpler, rather than you having to go out and contact vendors and find packages that total up to this amount with tax and shipping and everything, we have identified with some of our partner vendors, actually it's 14 packages, I think, this year, ranging from $500 to $1,000 that you can just select and then describe a program of what you'll do with those items. Or you can also you can still put your own package together again, totaling up to $500 or $1,000. But the $1,000 is only for those type of mitigation projects. So we really want to encourage actual improvements in earthquake safety to happen because things have gotten secured in different ways. And so if you're going to put up your own package together, it has to be for that. And so, for example, our pre-identified options, we have options for securing schools at $500 or $1,000, securing community organizations or small workplaces, or even a bit larger workplaces. So that's basically the difference between the amounts. For securing living spaces, so it might be an apartment or a house, enough supplies to do about 10 homes, at least most key items, maybe not the entire house, but you want to focus on things that are going to block exits, that are going to be right where people spend a lot of time. And so your program might be kind of working on with your organization how to go into communities and help people get those things installed. And there's also a smaller kit, residential kit option that will really much fewer items, but can support more homes up to about 20. So we also have a program, our packages for earthquake education at different levels. We can provide Map Your Neighborhood workbooks if you are wanting to take that program on. We can provide materials for children, especially if you want to have a program that is educating young people like ages 3 to 9, the Rocket Rules, Earthquake Adventure storybooks, and the new activity books are available as packages. And you can also get ShakeOut awareness materials to have and distribute. Now, ShakeOut isn't until next October, and these all have to be complete by May, but you can certainly be doing ShakeOut outreach early in the year and having people register early in the year. It's great to do, and also includes t-shirts and other items that you can use. Then finally, we have a couple packages of focused on emergency supplies. We really want these to be geared towards programs on earthquake preparedness, not general preparedness. And so earthquake messaging going along with giving people perhaps a backpack of supplies. So it's all about describing your program in the application, and the information webpage that will be coming out really describes all the details and what you need to emphasize in your proposals. The proposals are very simple. It's just a simple online web form. You don't have to write really a lot, but basic questions that will describe what you're going to do, who you're going to serve, how you're going to evaluate. And then at the end, well, here's the schedule. So by tomorrow, we will have the application open. You'll be able to go to earthquakecountry.org/SoCal and see the link to that. Applications will be due December 4th. So don't wait but again, it's actually a very simple application. You just need to figure out what program you're going to do and how you're going to make sure you can do it by May 31st, even if COVID restrictions continue all the way through that. So we will be hearing from many award recipients today about how they were able to implement them even this year. We'll let you know before the holidays, and then right after the start of the year, we'll be purchasing the items and getting them out to you, and then you'll have until the end of May to complete those projects, at which point you'll complete a survey, and then you also will do a presentation. Sorry about the formatting on this slide. You'll do a presentation at the summer workshop, just like we're going to hear next from the 2020 recipients at this workshop. So this is the list, and Gabby, I guess I'm going to turn over to you. I will advance slides, and we're going to hear from most of our recipients this year.
Yeah, great. So we'll get started. Just as a reminder for our presenters, you have 2 minutes, and Mark will advance your slides. Make sure to let him know next when you want him to move on to the next slide. And our first group is Laguna Beach Cert. Jerry, are you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you. Good morning.
Great. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Jerry Myers with Laguna Beach Cert. I'm the director of our program. And I'd like to thank the Earthquake Country Alliance and also our Laguna Beach seniors for helping us facilitate the preparation and installation of these home earthquake fastening kits. Next. We developed a program per the grant called Quake Ready Seniors, where Laguna Beach CERT partnered with our local senior center and through a home assessment identified eligible seniors that could use the fastening kits. Next. Our CERT group, we've trained about 320 people to date. COVID has obviously slowed that down, and we're now going to transition to virtual training. We have a pretty good active group, about 45. Once a year, we do a big annual drill and prepare and practice our skills that the CERT volunteers have learned in their training. Next. We also do public outreach at our farmers market and during red flag and extreme heat watches. We sell emergency backpacks at cost to our city, and we also do quite a bit of public outreach at track meets and school functions and so on. Some of our volunteers were very helpful, and we also had seniors that were handy and managed to do installations by themselves, and they were quite a hit. Next. We did an earthquake distribution group over at the CZQ's Community Center. We did a drive-through where we handed out the kits to the volunteers to do the installation and some of the seniors who did self-installations, practicing all COVID processes. Here's one of our seniors being installed by her daughter, who is also a CERT volunteer. And we had a great thank you from the Laguna Beach seniors. And I feel we've made many more people in Laguna and our seniors much more earthquake safe. Next. It was pretty easy. As you can see, we had some of our seniors jump right in and crack that case, and they were hooking stuff up before I even got out of the house. So it was very popular. Next. I'd like to thank you again, and also to our CERT board that assisted me. Also, John Fay, the director of the Laguna Beach Seniors and our emergency operations coordinator. And I look forward to working with ECA again to help our seniors and everybody else in Laguna Beach become quake ready. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry.
You're welcome.
Okay, our next group is the Rim of the World Unified School District. Carrie, are you ready?
I am. Can you hear me?
Great. Yes.
Okay, my name's Carrie Castillo. I'm the coordinator of risk management for our school district. Next. Here at Rim of the World, we utilize the 7 steps to earthquake safety. Next. I'd like to thank the Earthquake Alliance for the generous grant. Next. Here are pictures of our maintenance department, and next, which the grant allowed us to expand on our step 1 of the 7 steps to secure our space. Next. Next. Step 2 is plan to be safe. We utilize the flag system, green meaning that everything is okay when we put the flag up, or red signaling that we need resources. Next. Another system we use are ham radios. Next. Step 3, organizing our disaster supplies. Every one of our school sites has a C train filled with various supplies. Next. Each of our classrooms has a bucket with needed items. Next. Step 4, minimizing the financial hardship. We have done that with partnering with groups like yours and then being members of our California Schools Risk Management. Next. Step 5, drop, cover, and hold. Next. Annual participation in the Great Shakeout. Next. Step 6, improve safety by maintaining communication with local authorities and first responders, and our yearly participation in the Great Shakeout, and then our other earthquake drills. We believe we're improving the safety of our students. Next. Step 7.
7 seconds left.
Oh, okay. Next, we'd like to continue to grow our emergency preparedness program by partnering and training with programs like the California Earthquake Alliance Authority. Thank you.
Yeah, we often get confused. Earthquake Country Alliance and California Earthquake Authority with the same letters in our name, the insurance group, but But they're great partners, and so everybody should work all together. And Carrie, I just want to say, it's really I was really excited to see how you structured what you do according to the 7 steps to earthquake safety. I put the chat, or in the chat, the link to the 7 steps for everyone on the call if you weren't familiar with that. We really designed those back in 2003 to be a way of structuring what to do before, during, and after, so you can be prepared to survive and recover. So thanks again. And who's up next, Gabby?
Next, we have the Watts Healthcare Corporation. Phyllis, are you ready?
We have the video. And Phyllis, are you with us?
Just play the video.
We're going to come back to the slides now.
Yes, I love that video. Okay, so next we have, the Ridgecrest Community Emergency Response Team. Brenda?
Good morning. My name is Brenda Dawson, and I'm the Coordinator Program Manager for Indian Wells Valley CERT. And first, I just want to say thank you to ECA for the mini award. We used it at our farmers market, and it gave us an opportunity to get out and talk to the community about drop, cover, and hold on. It was also a way for us to speak to them about earthquake preparedness. July 4th, 2019, our city of Ridgecrest was hit with a 6.4 magnitude earthquake, and the following day we had a 7.1. Since then, people have been quite a bit more aware of the dangers and about the importance of being prepared. And with the use of the ECA Mini Award, my team and I were able to connect with the community at the farmers market. We demonstrated how to drop, cover, and hold on to the kids. And we also talked to the parents about how to turn family game night into family preparedness night, how to actually put into play the disaster drill plans, how to have the kids open their bedroom windows, take the screen down, and have the whole family really climb out of the window and to walk to the place across the street or wherever they're supposed to meet. I like to tell everybody, be prepared, not scared. And I believe that the more they practice these disaster drills with the whole family, the easier it is for all of them when a disaster actually hits. It's been a little over a year since we've had our earthquakes happen, and I think it was a chance for us to remind people to update their emergency supplies, to change out their food and water stores, and to go through their go bags, and to swap out snacks and waters in their go bags as well. To check the batteries in the flashlights and update any important information such as medical or insurance. And through that was a 12 steps to prepare program that we got from FEMA. And it really details how to get all your paperwork and things in order, how to put things on a flash drive, so that if something does happen, you can have that little flash drive in a go bag or in your emergency supply box. Also, with the COVID issues, we had them add masks to their go bags and other emergency supplies. So just thank you again to ECA for helping us to make all of our city just a little bit safer and to have our citizens just a little bit more prepared. And we look forward to working with ECA again in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Okay, so next we have the Spring Knolls Emergency Response Team. Alan?
Hello. Well, I tell you one thing, I'm going to school on how to do a presentation. So you guys have been doing a great job on those. And you see I have my USC hat on. I was actually listening to a USC final architectural presentation before this. So had a lot of stuff going on. In any event, I want to thank Glenn Granholm from Safety Proof because we ordered some of the earthquake strapping kits. And we had got 20 of those in. I gave out 10 to each recipient in our neighborhood because they were, I didn't think quite adequate, one kit for one household. So in any event, here are some of the photos of the creative uses that they came up with. So this is one of my neighbors that used his to attach an aquarium, and you can imagine what a mess this would be if it fell down in the event of an earthquake. So this is showing the straps going to the wall, and go to the next slide, please, Mark. And this one I thought was really creative. So these are actually fasteners that hold the doors closed. But this gentleman actually used it to tie his entire china cabinet to the wall. So, you know, any way that you can use them that's beneficial, go ahead and use them. So I thought this was pretty clever, but certainly an unorthodox use. Next slide, please. So this was another neighbor that I actually did the installation on. You know, we're in an over 55 community and a lot of the folks don't really get around all that well. So I screwed these into the wall and then attached them to the cabinet with the adhesive connector. So this was kind of it's actually a little desk type of thing, kind of a curio cabinet that he had in the corner. Next, please. So this was our house here. And there are two towers on either side of the TV. So I attached those to the wall. Next slide, please. So I used the wall anchors and then the connector that I actually screwed in the top of the china or the curio cabinet on either side. So that was my method for doing that installation. This is the bar cabinet. So this is actually how you're supposed to use those anchors for the cabinet doors. So you see how they're installed on either side inside the cabinet, and then there's the fastener that goes onto the door itself. And what those do is prevent the doors from opening up in the event of an earthquake. So I think that might be the last slide.
Yeah, Alan, those particular types of
perfect timing.
traps actually drop down due to shaking and latch the cabinet door from being able to open. So they're kind of motion activated.
Yes, exactly. So, you know, those are a great way that you can, you know, use your door normally, but if there's an earthquake, it'll keep everything closed and everything inside the cabinet. So
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Hi, hope you can hear me. My name is Mark Lagasse. I am the chairman of the Northeast LA Disaster Survival Task Force, and I'm also a member of the St. Andrews Bungalows HOA. I recently moved here. Next slide, please. Next slide. The bungalows are 16 single-family homes inside of a gated community in East Hollywood. Just for trivia, these bungalows are on the National Register of Historic Places going back to the 1920s when the studios used to use them, and also the location of the 2007 Alvin and Chipmunks movie, 20th Century Fox. Anyway, for hazard risk assessment, when I moved here a year ago, I found that there were two significant issues in my neighborhood as far as the environment. We're really close to the Hollywood Fault, and there's general lack of awareness that I found of what's going on, including a high pressure natural gas pipeline a half a block away. Next. Next. Yeah, this shows if you can go to SoCal Gas, the website is given on the top of the slide, but you can type in your address and find out if you're close to one of these things. I don't know if you remember 10 years ago, San Bruno, California, near San Francisco, had an explosion that really leveled a city block. And I was surprised. I tend to have bad luck. Wherever I've moved in LA, it's always been right next to a pipeline. So something about me gravitates toward them. But these are old pipelines. If you can ask SoCal Gas the year that they were installed, and these are over 50 or 60 years old. I know it has nothing to do with earthquakes, except for indirectly. I'm scared that after earthquake, these pipelines could rupture. So it is indirectly related to the whole earthquake preparedness thing. Next. Here's the fault. The X on the bottom shows where the bungalows are, where I live, and it's only 4 blocks away from the Hollywood Fault. This is the updated map that was recently released, showing the new locations in this of the Hollywood Fault. It's very close, and it can generate, I heard, up to a 6.0 magnitude quake, and maybe even more.
You have
Correct me if
15
I'm wrong.
seconds left, Mark.
Okay, next slide. So for reward, we provided the emergency backpacks to each bungalow. And what I really was scared, or what I couldn't believe, is that less than 10% of the households had these on hand. Next. So for social distancing guidelines and pandemic, I wrote a letter to explain what to do instead of face-to-face. Next. And the lessons learned are, I'm assuming now that less than 10% of households are prepared to help either themselves or others. And then don't assume the neighbors are aware of potential hazards around them, because no one knew about the pipeline that lives here. And that's it. I want to thank ECA for the report.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Mark.
much. Next, we have the Colby Regency HOA. Siavash?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi. Yeah, so we are 17 unit HOA in West LA, and just wanted to thank you guys all for the grant. Next. Yeah. So we did a couple things in this project. We informed all the residents about this grant, and the goals we had were, about half of our residents are a little bit older, so they're not really aware of all the earthquake precautions they should be taking, and they hadn't been, taking consideration of earthquake insurance. We're, close to the fault line, and our building is actually on one of the liquefaction zones also. So after we got the grant, we were going to have an HOA meeting to explain all the items that we got. We put some bulletins in the lobby, and we sent emails to everyone about the items. Okay, next. Next slide, please. Yeah. So distribution, like we sent this email, because of COVID, we couldn't meet in person. So we tried some new technology stuff, like having a QR code that would go to a distribution form. That way we could keep track of who was requesting it. Also, we had different distributions that we gave. We actually just went to people's houses and dropped off the kits. So that's the example of the email. Next. And then we had this little online form where people just explain if you scan that QR code or clicked on the link in the email, you would go to this web form, and you could just request give your information and request the kits. Next. So here's an example, like some of the people, like they used like the cabinet kits, they used connect to some of the TVs. Next. So some of the positives were, we used, we're a small HOA, so we don't have anything very, we don't have a lot of resources for doing these kinds of things or just even distributing things. But we used some new methods like QR codes, these Google Forms. We had our HOA meeting on Zoom. We did a very good thing that came out of this was that many more people were aware of the risks just by seeing the equipment that was there, like what kinds of things can fall over, their TVs can fall over, their furniture can fall over. They hadn't really thought about that. Problems we had, because of COVID, there were not that many people. I'll just wrap up very quickly. People had problems with the instructions. We'll follow up with this next year, probably when we can actually meet people in person. Next, I think that might have been it.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Before we move to the next, I just want to remind everybody that, if you've joined late, these are our 2020 mini award recipients. We will be announcing, as I described earlier, the 2021 mini award program. Applications will be opening by tomorrow. And even if you don't apply for that, just look at what people are doing with, $500 worth of materials in these great programs. And you may not apply for a mini award, but you can still do this type of work in your community and your neighborhood and your organization. So really great examples. Next up, we have Naples Island. John.
Hello, everybody. John Angelo here. The Naples Improvement Association represents approximately 5,000 residents, business employees, students, and visitors. 2 years ago, working with the City of Long Beach and the Long Beach Fire Department, as well as FEMA, we crafted an island-wide emergency response plan that relies upon volunteers and residents to fend for one another following a major earthquake. We have several factors that could make the aftermath all the more challenging for us. One, our connection to the mainland is restricted by 3 bridges. Our man-made island is susceptible to widespread liquefaction, and the average age of our population is 17 years greater than that of the city at large. Our emergency response plan divides the island into 6 divisions, each with a volunteer division supervisor. The divisions are then subdivided into blocks, each with a block captain. We have approximately 50 blocks in total. Our block captains reach out to residents to encourage them to prepare for an emergency. The Earthquake Country Alliance granted our team 20 emergency go bags, which we used to incentivize our residents to complete an in-depth emergency preparedness survey. Our goal was to establish a baseline read as to how prepared our homes are for an earthquake and use those insights to tailor our 2021 messaging. Next slide. Nearly 250 residents completed the survey. 20 were then randomly drawn to win an ECA go bag. Our block captains delivered the go bags to their respective winners in a very COVID-safe, socially distanced manner. Photos of the deliveries and top-level findings from the survey were published in our bi-monthly magazine, The Naples News. Those are the pages I'm sharing with you now. We plan to repeat the survey in 12 months to determine how effective our outreach and educational programs have been, and we'd like to say thank you to ECA for partnering with us on this project. Thank you.
Thanks so much, John. Next up is the Morongo Basin, and there we go.
Marjorie.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, Marjorie.
Fantastic. I'm Marjorie Smith with the Morongo Basin COAD, which are community organizations active in disasters. The Morongo Basin covers 1,275 miles of area, sits on 2 earthquake faults, has 3 major highways. One connecting with the Los Angeles Basin has 5 bridges, which you must drive over to get down the hill. The other one going north is the 247, which in 1992 was severely hit with the Landers earthquake. In other words, our community must be self-reliant. Earlier this year, Plan A was put in place. We had a team of volunteers who were going to install the home earthquake kits as soon as they were received. On March 7th, Morongo Basin COAD presented a large community event, Help Yourself, Help Your Neighbor, which was designed to engage the community in emergency preparedness, specifically earthquakes. We had 42 participating organizations, each teaching a specific aspect of preparedness. Our goal was to engage people in conversations, just not hand out literature. The topic of earthquakes was discussed at many of the booths. We handed out the earthquake guide and told them it was a perfect source of information. Be sure to read it. Nothing at the event was for sale, not even the hot dogs. March 15th, the COVID pandemic hit the news. Everything changed. On March 18th, I was activated as a VOAD leader to ensure the community with security, supply, and distribution of food to all the food pantries for the county of San Bernardino. Working closely with the food pantries and churches have presented an opportunity for meaningful discussions during the COVID with volunteers who care about their community. Easy to talk about earthquakes, water storage, 72-hour kits, and food supplies. The COVID pandemic has helped people to see the need to have items such as toilet paper stored. The catchphrase from one of your webinars is "What's under your bed?" Great opening to get conversation on an earthquake.
You have 10 seconds, Marjorie.
Right?
You have 10 seconds left.
Oh, 10 seconds. Well, we had a discussion with the Homeowners Association, and we have developed a community network which covers 5 of the major things that are rural. And in Plan B, we distributed through the homeowners associations to have all the recipients. The person whose pictures you see is our local newscaster, so that he is very much behind earthquakes. We thank you very much for this generous grant. Thank you, Gabriella.
Thank you. And just before we go to the next item on the agenda, I just want to thank every one of the mini award recipients for their collaboration, and also praise you for your success and your ability to implement your program throughout our pandemic. So thanks and good job, everyone.
Fantastic, everybody. Thank you. And I'm just changing the slides to our next presenter. Anthony, are you ready?
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. And thank you, ECA, for allowing me to join you all today and discuss a little bit about the program that we offer here at Cal OES. My name is Anthony Roggio. I'm the lead specialist with the Hazard Mitigation Assistance Branch. And today I'm just going to take a few moments of your time to discuss a program that becomes available after a disaster is declared at the federal level. So next slide, please. So first off, I kind of want to lay the framework here so that you can understand what it is that we do in our program and define hazard mitigation. Hazard mitigation is defined as any sustained action taken to reduce or eliminate long-term risk to life and property from natural hazard events. So my presentation today is a bit more broadly focused. Our branch handles all hazards that are derived naturally. So we don't just look at seismic activity. Obviously the hot button issue right now is wildfire, but we look at seismic, wildfire, wind, rain, flooding, storms, mudslides, whatever it may be, as long as it's of natural causes, it's something that we can consider. This process is ongoing. It occurs before, during, and after disasters and serves to break the cycle of damage in hazard-prone areas. Next slide, please. So what is the goal of our program? Our program is here to implement mitigation measures that reduce loss to life and property from future disasters. One thing that is very important with our program is that if you are looking to seek funding for a grant for a project, your project must implement a long-term standalone risk reduction strategy. It's very important that it is not a band-aid fix for something. It does serve long-term purposes, and also that it functions independently of any other action to be effective. It needs to be its own standalone risk reduction strategy. We also provide funding for the creation or updates of local jurisdictional hazard mitigation plans. These are necessary to be eligible for a lot of programs that are administered by FEMA and the state. So we will certainly provide funding opportunities there as well. Next slide, please. So where does HMGP come from? This gives you kind of an easy, simple breakdown of how the process flow works. Should the state of California sustain damages from a disaster, the governor decides how to approach that. And typically we'll ask the federal government for assistance. And in some cases, depending on the size of the disaster, ask for a major disaster declaration. If approved by the president, the state then goes out to assess and evaluate damages sustained. We are considered an enhanced state. Therefore, Cal OES receives 20% of all the damages that are eligible. And we use that funding, that 20%, to put towards hazard mitigation grant program projects. That funding allocation, it moves from the federal government through FEMA, goes to the state of California through Cal OES, and then we pass it on to the local jurisdictions who provide us with projects that are potentially eligible for funding. We vet those projects for eligibility, move them on to FEMA for concurrent. FEMA then approves the project. We then provide funding to that local jurisdiction for their project. So to give you just an example of the money, if we were to sustain $100 million in disaster damages, that leaves us with a $20 million bucket of funding to use towards hazard mitigation grant projects. There are some subcategories in there as well that are included for planning only related projects or a specific 5% initiative program category, which I'll discuss a little bit more here in a bit. Next slide, please. So with every disaster, dependent on what the disaster is, the level of damage sustained, where the damage is sustained, Cal OES's Hazard Mitigation Assistance Branch will establish a priority list that helps us further define how we're going to approach projects submitted to the program for funding. This is the exact priority list that we are looking at for this most current disaster. Then the top item that you see there is local hazard mitigation plans, and the reason that is in the top spot is because hazard mitigation plans, whether they be single jurisdictional or multi-jurisdictional in nature, they are required in order to be eligible to receive funding through our program, some of the other funding program streams that we offer, and many of the other FEMA programs that are related to disaster recovery. So very, very important to make sure that you have a plan in place. One thing to note is that they do expire every 5 years. So it is those 5 years go by very quickly. We're also looking for shovel-ready projects that are at a high level of design that can essentially break ground within 90 days of approval. So this is the priority list that we have here. Definitely want to take a picture of this if you're considering getting involved in our program. Next slide, please. So I want to talk, was used for the most recent disasters that were obviously related to fire, as we saw a very, very large scale fire disaster here in California that burned nearly 4 million acres statewide. But these are some of the fire project types that we have seen in our program as they are relate to the before and after effects of fire. Obviously, we also will look at seismic projects as well. I'll discuss those here in just a bit. Next slide, please. Additionally, post-wildfire mitigation is very important to us as well. The after effects in burn scar areas, as they are very, very dangerous, and they actually are highly susceptible to seismic activity as well. The unstable nature of the ground in burnt areas is something that we certainly want to address in our program, and we look for projects, we seek out projects that could mitigate disasters in those areas as well. Next slide, please. This is just a little bit more information on wildfire specific project types that we do. We also look for green solutions to mitigation. This is very important. If you can implement some type of hazard mitigation action and simultaneously implement a environmentally friendly approach to doing so, it is going to rank quite highly in our program. Next slide, please. These are some breakdowns of what green infrastructure looks like. A lot of folks ask, what does green infrastructure look like? Well, these are just a very few examples of what green infrastructure actually is. Next slide, please. I see some questions in there. It says, who can apply for these grants? I will actually discuss that here in just a bit to give you an idea who's eligible to receive these. These are other eligible project types that we look at providing funding for. In the instance of everyone who's on this phone call today, we do absolutely consider seismic projects, whether it be seismic retrofits of structures, buildings, or non-structural retrofit projects like that we talked a lot about here today. These are project types that we certainly will consider. We have done many in the past, largely in the Southern California area with the Los Angeles Unified School District. They do a lot of seismic retrofitting of their older facilities and their older buildings to help protect the children there. Recently, we did a project at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center as well for a large-scale early warning system in their hospital as well. These are some things that we can absolutely consider doing with money that's available through our program. So I mentioned the initiative earlier and what that looks like. The initiative is a sort of outside of the box approach to mitigation. If there's something that that's not your typical project type, it typically fits in this 5% initiative. And the differentiating piece between 5% initiative and something that's just a normal regular project is whether or not you can quantify the benefit of it, dollars versus benefits. In this aspect, this 5% aspect here, what fits in here is projects that are known to be effective or beneficial to the community that they protect, but it's hard to quantify those. And I'll show you here on the next slide what are some of our most common. The most common ones we see are earthquake early warning systems. Those are obviously highly beneficial to the public they serve. It's just very difficult to provide quantifiable data to show how exactly they are beneficial. We also see a lot of critical facility generators to protect critical infrastructure, such as emergency operations centers, hospitals, fire stations, police stations, things of that nature. We see a lot of interest there as well. Next slide, please. So ineligible activities, extremely important that you understand what is ineligible for our program. And the one that we see the most of is projects where actual work has already begun. If you have already started on the project prior to the approval of the project from both the state and the federal government, you are not eligible to receive reimbursement funding for that project. It has to be, you can't start it until it is approved. If the projects do not implement long-term standalone strategies, obviously I mentioned that earlier, projects that have contingencies upon other projects to be effective, again, not eligible. Projects that take longer than 36 months to complete. That is a deadline time frame. If a project were to be approved by FEMA and OES today and you can't complete it within 36 months, it's not eligible. Simple studies or investigations are not eligible for the program unless they are used to implement an actual mitigation action. So if you are using, for instance, we do see a lot of seismic projects, and there is usually geotechnical studies or boring involved to determine soil densities or whatever it might be. Those are typically entirely necessary for the project. And those studies and investigations are absolutely eligible for our program. We don't conduct emergency response actions here. We are not a response function. If we are paying for response activities, our program is not doing what it is there to do. It is to mitigate future hazards from happening. And if we are responding to the hazard, we are not mitigating the hazard. So that's something that we do not do. Another big one here is projects that address the operation, defer to future maintenance, et cetera, without increasing the level of protection. That needs to be the overwhelming theme here, is that if you cannot convey the message to us that you are increasing the protection of whatever it might be that you're doing, that's really a big determination of eligibility there. You need to be able to convey that clean and clear message that you are making something better than it was before. Next slide, please. Eligibility requirements. Who is eligible? Someone did ask that earlier. I see a lot of questions coming in here in the chat. State agencies are eligible. Actually, you mentioned CEA earlier. CEA has been quite involved with OES and FEMA in implementing their large-scale programs, and we're happy to assist there with them as well. So they are a partner for us. Local governments such as counties, cities, towns, special districts, whether it be fire protection districts, water districts, there's plenty of other special district options there. They are eligible to receive funding through us as well. Federally recognized tribes are eligible to receive funding, and private nonprofit organizations or NGOs that provide a essential government function or operate a facility that provides an essential government function. And who we see most in that category is, of course, our private nonprofit hospitals and schools. That's who we see a lot in that category. Next slide, please. Pat Skrillex says, so no money is available to after the quake? No. There is a federally declared disaster that has occurred that is, as it relates to that large scale fire. Oh, my bad. As it relates to that fire, there is money that is in fact available there due to that disaster occurring. It then opens up the HMGP funding stream, and we look at addressing all hazards, not just the fire. So that's kind of where that goes from, is once this disaster is federally declared, then opens up the HMGP funding stream and allows additional funding to be made available for all hazard types. So to continue, eligibility requirements, you must have a plan in place. If you do not have a plan in place, and this is not applicable to private nonprofits, if you don't have a plan in place, you're not eligible to receive funding. So that is something that is you must remember. Someone asked about cost share requirements. We absolutely have cost share requirements. It's a 75-25 split for cost share funding here. You need to be able to put forth 25% minimum of the cost of the project to receive funding. Your project can exceed the 36-month period of performance. It is up to you to comply with Environmental Quality Act requirements, and you must not do or can do any construction prior to the approval of the project. So those are some things that you would want to remember right there. Next slide, please. I would encourage anyone who's considering applying for our program to download these documents right here. These two documents explain the program in detail, and you would need to have this information available to you in order to be successful in applying for the program. So by all means, please download this information and have it available to you if you are considering being part of our program. Next slide, please. Funding limitations, no funding limit to any project sub-applications submitted to us. You could submit for a funding request of a $50 million project, and we will certainly consider it. This is a program where we are looking for very large projects that have a large impact. They have a positive impact on a large scale community. We really would like to see that all around benefit there, but there is funding limitations to planning sub-applications. If you are looking at submitting interest in a local jurisdictional plan for a single jurisdiction, it's capped at $150,000 for the Fed share, and for multi-jurisdictional plans, it's capped at $250,000. Next slide, please. So first thing you need to do in order to get involved here is, if you fit under any of the criteria you saw earlier about who is eligible to receive funding, and you have a potential project that may be eligible to receive funding, I would encourage you to, sooner rather than later, go to our website, caloes.ca.gov/HMGP, and fill out a notice of interest. I believe that date might be off by a day. I want to say you should go to submit by December 30th. This is a very quick one pager on the risk that you face, or the hazard that you are facing, and how you are going to mitigate future damages from that disaster. So this is really your elevator pitch on your project, provides us with that brief synopsis of what it is that you're doing. We then use that to triage all the projects we are receiving interest in, to find out what is eligible to receive funding. We receive hundreds upon hundreds of notices of interest for projects all around the state, and we need to, of course, make sure that they are eligible before we ask the folks to pursue the project any further. Next slide, please. Once you submit a notice of interest to us, if it is deemed eligible upon review, we would then invite you to join us for a sub-application development and benefit cost analysis workshop. If this were normal times, which obviously 2020 is far from being normal, we would come out to the local jurisdictions and hold a 2-day seminar on how to be successful in the program. Instead, we will now hold these seminars virtually. So if you do submit an NOI to us and it's deemed eligible, you will receive more information on that in your email. Next slide, please. additional funding opportunities. If this sounds interesting to you, but you're not in any position to submit something to us now, we do have additional funding opportunities that are a yearly cycle. Every year, the BRIC program or the FMA program becomes eligible. These annual appropriations are from Congress. They are quite a bit more money in them, but they are competitive on a nationwide scale, whereas HMGP is competitive on a statewide scale. So about this time next year, we will just start talking about BRIC and FMA again. So if you're not quite ready for this now, I would advise you to bookmark our website and take a look, come back to us in, maybe 9-10 months to look at the BRIC and FMA program. Next slide, please. So with that said, I think I might have went over my time here by a little bit. I would advise you guys, we are very busy in our joint field office right now over here for Cal OES and FEMA. I would advise you, if you have any questions that I wasn't able to address for you today, I would ask you to send your questions to our general mailbox at hma@caloes.ca.gov. One of our analysts will definitely be able to get in touch with you and be able to provide you with further assistance on anything that it is that you might have regarding our program. And again, thank you guys for having me, and have a great day.
Okay, and thank you so much, Anthony, for that wonderful, informative overview of the hazard mitigation funding opportunities. And I hope this will encourage many of you, of our attendees, to evaluate their eligible projects and be able to apply for this. So we're now going to move on to our breakout portion of our workshop. And so with that, we have, next slide, Mark.
Let me just get back to the other slide set, just a second.
Okay.
Go
And
ahead
so
and
with our breakout session, this is kind of an opportunity for all of us to get together and discuss a question and then come back and meet together. So our question today is actually going to be, what is next for 2021? And so where do you see us going? What are some of the challenges that we might face? And so we have 3 questions that you might address to that. What activities and resources would you like to see for 2021? What are the things that aren't being done already that you might take advantage of? What are some of the challenges that might be continued in COVID that is a challenge for you and the job that you're doing? And how can ECA help you? So what are your challenges? What activities and resources do you need? And how can we be of assistance to you? So those are the 3 questions that we're going to ask. And some of your breakout rooms might have a coordinating committee leader to lead the discussion. But when you get into the breakout room, ask if there is a coordinating committee leader. If not, choose a leader for your group. That leader then will just guide the discussion to come up with 2 or 3 ideas for what is next for 2021 for Earthquake Country Alliance, and how might it suit what the needs that you have. And then that person will also take notes. And then after the breakout session, we will then come back together and share our ideas together.
Welcome back, everyone, to the main room. It'll take a brief moment for everyone to be back. Okay, almost everyone is back. Still coming back from the breakout rooms. Thank you, everybody. I don't know if you noticed what room number you're in. I remember some. I know that John Angelo, you were number 1. And so why don't we go ahead and, I don't know if Margaret and Gabby, I don't see you right now. But John, get started.
Okay, well, we didn't have a whole lot of points, but we had a bit of conversation. Partly, my focus is coming from the community residential predominantly focus. And, so I was thinking when I looked at the number of people who are presenting today who were CERT related, as we are, that there might be some collaboration opportunities between ECA and CERT programs, and how to perhaps organize a community, a CERT group around the shakeouts, around educating neighbors. That's what the approach that we're taking, which is a much more formal, island-wide volunteer-based program. We also talked about the need for obviously ongoing with virtual training and virtual approaches to drills for the least coming foreseeable future. We are doing some outdoor sorts of activities, bringing people together for radio trainings and other types of discussions in park settings and green spaces, just trying to break it up, take advantage of the Southern California hospitality with the weather. We also had some conversation about the perhaps guidelines that would trigger a notification as to that structures need to be examined. So at what level of an earthquake would bridges or school structures, let's say it was the weekend. So if there's a 3.0 or a 5.0, should the maintenance crew or pertinent personnel head in to look at the school before Monday starts? Once kids are back in school, at least in our area. And, is there some type of a level perhaps that ECA could recommend? And, for example, here on our island, we're thinking about compromising bridges since we are tethered to the mainland by three bridges. And then there was just conversation that the amenities that you guys are offering, whether it's go bags or the securing the home or office, those supplies are good incentive and good attention getters to help spread the word. So that was more of just a keep doing that.
John, thank you. We need to actually move on to the other groups. We didn't give you any time reference, so we should have. Let's say each group you have, try to take about a minute.
Oh, okay.
I know, sorry. But great. And I also just put in the chat that everyone's welcome to put their ideas that were discussed into the chat so we can say that. And you can also email them. If you did take notes as a breakout room host, please put those into a format and email them to socal@earthquakecountry.org. Does anybody remember who was in room 2 as the host? Or Margaret, you're next. I think
Okay, I'm room 3.
Okay.
So some of the things to add to that we talked about was one group is going to, they're going to continue what they did this year of sending the test through their PA system. But next year, what they want to do is reach out to the neighborhood. So the surrounding neighborhood of the Port of LA, they're going to reach out to the high school and work with them and engage them, offer any assistance that they might be able to do to the local high school to be doing their drill. Another neighborhood is going to do a simulated earthquake drill. And so they hope to be able to do a mock drill within their HOA for next year. And that is something that we could help them with. So that would go to number 2 that we discussed as well. The next was ham radio engagement. So another neighborhood that does a weekly coordination with all of their neighborhood. Part of that is ham radio. So encouraging ham radio users and encouraging more people to become a ham radio user. And so they're going to move on to looking at ham radio. Another thing was being able to push their neighbor helping neighbor. And so that they wanted to do that more and reach into more, getting to know their neighbors, be able to collaborate with them. Some of the challenges were, of course, face-to-face.
Margaret, thank you.
Face-to-face.
Thank you very much.
One thing I want to add is that one person said that they have learned one thing from all of our workshops. They learn at least one new thing.
Great. Pamela, were you a host in a room? Or who was the host in your room? John. John's waving his hand. John.
Yes. Hi. Thanks. We had a quick, fast discussion, but really great discussions. And very quickly, one of the things they're focusing on is the house retrofitting. And before COVID, they were getting plans together to do this. And now they're figuring out, well, how do we go now and do this? The retrofitting, and how will the in-person help be there? What can we be doing to move this forward? And one of the big suggestions there was ECA help with getting messages out about retrofitting and helping get the retrofitting. We didn't get a chance to discuss all questions, but we had two things for what ECA could give back is the links, good links for PowerPoints, 7 steps, different programs that are working so these people can present out what we have virtually, of course, right now, but have all these documents and everything ready. And the other thing is to maybe reach out to television with commercials, especially geared to children, with a song of the 7 steps, possibly, that the children can start learning and singing and getting better prepared. So
Awesome
Mark,
ideas, John, and thank you so much. And please,
yeah, you and Margaret get ready with your singing voices, okay? That's
no
a great
problem.
idea.
John, please email all those ideas
Great idea.
to the SoCal email list. Next up, who else was a host?
I sure will.
I'll do it, Mark, as
Debbie, thank you.
our group. I don't remember our group number. So one of our group members, Jim Matthews, was talking about they're working on creating a hybrid CERT training. And so where they can do most of the training remotely, but there are some in-person components that need to happen. And so they are trying to figure out what the guidelines will be to be able to do the in-person components. So the idea of doing it mostly remote and working on how to do the in-person training. And so for reference, there is a module out of the University of Utah, I believe, that they're kind of implementing themselves. And then one thing that ECA can help with would be in helping figure out like how to prioritize guidelines. So another member of our group talked about how they moved to a lot of their services, not online because their clients don't have the resources or the technology, but they have to do a lot of their services over the phone. And so the safety component or their preparedness component has kind of been put, it's a little overwhelming right now because there's just so much information. They would like maybe some guideline or prioritizing of the preparedness part as they move back into in-person services. And that will all happen next year.
Thanks, Gabby. We have 2 more rooms. Who else was a host?
Oh, this is Lance. I was in room 6.
Great.
Let me start my counter here. Mark Wynn talked about the challenge of getting safety education out to 5 cities and the Santa Monica mountain areas and to get speakers for those various towns. Now, it's no accident that speaking opportunities came up because I'm co-chair of the Speakers and Events Bureau with with John Hammett. Kelly Williams talked about the challenge of getting the word out in a large county with widespread cities and communities. And she has a Map Your Neighborhood grant and is waiting until COVID is over to do that. Would like to see more on Zoom from ECA. And Cynthia Safier, West LA, has an annual safety prep fair, which they're trying to figure out how to do online. And I volunteered ECA to do a Zoom presentation on 7 steps. Her challenge is to get people to do things after they've had their fairs. People go home and don't do what they're supposed to.
Right.
My time is
Thank you,
up.
Lance. And who's last?
You know, I don't remember what group I was in, Mark, but I can offer a couple comments from my group.
Great.
So one of the great things are actually 5 real key hinge pins really is making sure that we have those PDF checklists online and easy to find. Discussion or maybe like a workshop of buying food for yourself and making sure that it's what you need and you can use it and you can open it, especially for people with disabilities and access and functional needs and elderly. So if you have a can, making sure you have an accessible, can opener, something you will eat and is good for your diet. individual safety training. One of our group members was talking about making sure people practice a safe, evacuation from their home following an earthquake. What do you need if you're trapped? Where to go? Do your neighbors, know if you need help? And then finally, I really found this a great idea is if we could do like workshops online to say like, success stories. This is what I bought. This is, what was on sale. I bought 3 cans instead of 2 this week. So this is like, 1 item of my emergency kit. And then 3 weeks into it, you can have like a little online demo of, this is how my emergency kit at home has been enhanced simply by shopping, so that there's an interactive success stories that we can share on a regular basis.
Thank you, Anna.
And I didn't catch everyone's name. Sorry.
And you must have been the last room. So it was just to double check. Is there anybody whose room hasn't been reported out? I think that was, and that was fantastic. And thank you all those who stepped up on the fly, in addition to our coordinating committee members who were in the rooms and kind of worked out to be in different rooms without intentionally dividing it like that. So next up, Margaret, I think you have a couple announcements.
Yeah, we are kind of running long on time, but if anybody has any short announcements that they need to make, this would be the time to do that. Hearing none.
This is Lance.
Okay, go ahead, Lance.
I said this in our room, but ECA has the capability of doing Zoom presentations on the 7 steps for earthquake safety, as short as 20 minutes, as long as an hour. If it's useful to help you in a particular community, if there's a significant number of people available, please let us know and let John Hammond or myself know.
I just put the link to the request form in the chat. So earthquakecountry.org/events.
Perfect.
There's a link to the form where you can request a speaker, including in the online mode.
Thank you.
And I will mention that step 7 webinar is being planned right now. So watch for the announcement on that to be forthcoming. Anybody else have a short announcement? Nope. Okay, then I will say thank you all for coming today. This was a great workshop, but a lot of valuable information, hopefully for you and for us as well, to move forward to 2021. Our next meeting will be on Wednesday, February the 10th. I'll put it on your calendar. And so any presentations from today will be made available on the website. So watch for the email notification. And so thank you so much for coming, and we look forward to seeing you in February, if not before, and make sure to contact us if you have any questions at all, so we can help you find anything you need on the website or any materials that you might be looking for. Thank you so much.